that we're in right now, the Sphira, is the connecting link from Pesach to Shavuos. The Ramban and Rabbeinu Bachai both talk about it as a Chol Hamoed, that it's one long yontif from Pesach to Shavuos. In fact, the Ramban says in his introduction to Shmos that the Gula, the actual redemption, didn't climax until Kabbalas HaTorah. They were taken out of Mitzrayim, that Amenas, that they should, the Psukim, the Torah, Chazal, expand on it, in order they should receive the Torah, that they should, in fact, have not just physical redemption, physical freedom, but they should have spiritual freedom, tavdun, that they should worship me, tavodu nun, is said over the same b'shem, the Talmidim of the Arizal. On that day, on the 50th day, they're going to, in fact, have the culmination of a process, something that was put into action. So it's not accidental. The Maral points out that that we begin the counting of the Sphira with the Korban Omer. The Korban Omer is Seorim, that it's Michael Behema. We know that the Seita brings that, and the climax on Shavuos is going to be Lechem, which is Michael Odom. That we've traversed that distance, we've bridged between the two. We started out, we were living on a welfare, on a dole. The Rebbeinu Shalom had to extricate us from Mitzrayim, Memter Sharituma. Some find that in the, I believe it's the Chasam Sefer that darshans it, on the Posik and in the Mishnah in Yuma. The Mishnah says, Omer Rabbi Akiva, lifnei mi atem metarim. Before we come to me, Gematria 50, before we come to Shavuos, atem metarim. Umi metar eschem, avinu avichem shebashabayim. Umi, and on the 50th day, in fact, the Torah, there will be climax, culminated, it'll be fulfilled, it'll be completed by the Rebbeinu Shalom. During these days, we have to build our connection, our koyach to, that's why the classical question, why didn't we get the Torah immediately as soon as we came out of Mitzrayim? The answer is we weren't ready, because the Rebbeinu Shalom artificially catapulted us up to that level, up to a level of Kedusha and Torah that we could see, feel, sense the Shechina at that moment. But we needed that to get out of Lifnei Mi. Before we got into the 50th level, the Chasam Sefer says, before we got to it, then the Rebbeinu Shalom is going to extricate us, but now we have to complete the process. We were artificially taken up. We slip back again. Why do we slip back again? Because we hadn't earned it. We hadn't created it. Something which is taken without having been earned isn't integrated into the person. It doesn't become part of that personality. And so the Rebbeinu Shalom takes us out of Mitzrayim, but now the Chinuch actually alludes to this in his saying that really the counting of the Sphira should have begun on the first day of Pesach. But in order to not to mix it with the simcha of the Nes of Yetzias Mitzrayim, it was postponed a day. Why should it have been on that day? Because it is connected to that day. In Halacha, there's some very interesting kinds of explorations of the shaila of why we don't say a Shechiyanu on Sfiras HaOmer. So some say that in fact the Shechiyanu of Pesach is the Shechiyanu that covers the counting of the Sfira. Not a shailas on that. This isn't the forum right now to go into that, but it's an idea that what the Hayoris, the with an aleph, the lights, the sparks of sanctity that were attained to on Pesach night, we lost, but we're going to now revisit them by us exploring them, uncovering them, discovering them during the course of the days of the Sfira. During the course of the days of the Sfira, we will then, in fact, then be able to build ourselves, and then we'll reach the point. Each one of the 48 days, 49 days, but the 48 days, the first 48 days is connected one of the Memches Dvorim Shatay Niknesem. The 49th says the Alta from Kelem, and there are those that concur. That is the bringing together of all of the midas. The Vilna Gaon says that the Eishes Chayil Mi Yimtza is talking about Torah. Rashi says already it talks about Torah, but he says Mi is going to be that is going to be that climax of bringing together all of the midas of Torah, and then we will be in a position then to receive it on Shavuos. In fact, the Gra says on the posuk, Rabbos bonus also choil. You need many people pulling together a group to make the Memches Dvorim Shatay Niknesem, because the Memches Dvorim, not everybody excels in any one of the Memches Dvorim Shatay Niknesem. So you need Rabbos bonus. Also choil b'gematria is Memches. Be'at and Torah, which is from Aleph to Tov, at least comes as a consequence of all of them, all of us pulling together and bringing about that sense of Kedusha and Torah, which will climax with the Yontif of Shavuos. It brings to mind the idea that this idea that I quote in the name of the Chassam Sefer, that the name before you slip into 50, you're going to have to extricate yourself, but you can't extricate yourself if you've already at the 49th, and that's when the Rebbeinu Shalom had to pull us out. So we could say also that the Kayach of Torah is similar to what the Orach Chaim HaKodesh says. Two places, he says in Shmos, he says it in Vayikra, I think it's Chav Beis, that Klal Yisrael couldn't pull themselves out of the Memtes Sharei Tuma. They had to be taken out by the Rebbeinu Shalom because they didn't have Torah yet. They weren't B'nai Torah. Once Klal Yisrael has Torah, Umi Matayah is Eschem, and me, now that is going to transcend any of the limitations of the material, physical norms of Teva. And Klal Yisrael is going to march that way through history, just like the Maral compares it, and others compare it to the idea that the 50th day is comparable to the 8th day of Mila. The Maral says that the eighth day is after Teva. 7 times 7 is Teva. That's the Yemei Sfira is working within the Teva. Now, working within Teva, we then reach a point where we merit having exploited and maximized our potential within Teva. We merit the intervention of a Kodesh Baruch Hu to be meisiv to add to that. I would think that we might compare it to Avraham Avinu in Yesh. He sees inductively, he comes to the recognition, Yesh Odin Labirazu, there is a master, there's a plan, there's a designer, there's a design, so there's a designer. And then Miyad hates it so Labira. The Rebbeinu Shalom appears to him in the Ruah. He got there already. You use your reason. The answer is that reason is vulnerable. Reason can, at some point, be challenged, create sveikas, be vulnerable to sveikas, be exposed to the possibility of second guessing. There's a fact then that the Miyad hates it of Balabira. Yes, we work with Svara. We rely on Svara because the Torah tells us to rely on Svara. That is our mandate. How do we know that the Maimed HaSinai and the Eidos from Av Leben, as the Ramban says, and as Klal Yisrael, the Psukim themselves testify to it, that Aniya Kadova Agodlos, and nothing like this was ever heard or claimed by any people in history. Why didn't somebody claim it? I mean, if we got together and we decided to go into business and start a new religion tomorrow, surely it's a better claim than saying that a few people heard, saw, witnessed it to say everybody was there. The answer is you can't get it started. As soon as you say everybody, then somebody is going to come up and say I wasn't there. And somebody took the risk at some point in history to go on record and say nobody would ever make such a claim. Not just that the claim was made, not just that we're claiming that there was such a claim, we're predicting. So only the Rebbeinu Shalom could do that, and only the fact of the reality of it. And Miyad hates it, so love Balabira. That's the vindication, the actuality of it. And so I build myself during the Yemei Sviva. Yes, the Rebbeinu Shalom extricated us. Then I have to Cholamoid. I have to build each day. The 49th day is the Tarovas, integrating all of the other 49. But then I need Miyad Heitzitzel of Balabir. I need the gift that the Rebbeinu Shalom is going to create, that special, spiritual, unique experience, which is one time in history, which then changes the course of human history, and Klal Yisrael becomes a different Metzias, a different entity. And they then immersed in Torah. And that's what the Orach Chaim HaKodesh means, that with Torah, somebody can pull themselves out of Memtes Shayituma Chas V'Sholom from that day forward, that there was a Maimed HaSinai. I would like to just share with you also since we're moving right into Lag B'Omer, there's a beautiful Bnei Yisoscha, and we'll see how this connects in a moment. Bnei Yisoscha brings on the Mishnah and Ovis that Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai says to Talmidim Tzuru Ezoi Derech Tova Sheyidbak Ve'odim. There are two Gilsois. One is Tova and the other is Yeshora, just. But let's go with Tova. That's the way the Bnei Yisoscha goes. So Rabbi Eliezer says Ayin Tova, a sympathetic eye, a good eye. Rabbi Yeshua says Chova Tov. Rabbi Yossi says Shochin Tov, a good neighbor. Rabbi Shimon says Areas Anoiled. Rabbi Elazar ben Aruch says Leiv Tov. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai says Royani B'dvoro B'sdivreichem. Everything everybody else said, I see in his words. what was transpiring over here. Says the Bnei Yisoscha, the Rabbi Yochanan Bazaki was sending them, what's the source? Let's find the source. Tzuru, people of the book. Let's find now. Where does it in fact, how do I know what Tov is? Tov is invariably connected with Torah, but the first time that we find it in scripture, the first time is Vayar Hashem Ki Tov is connected with Ria, and it's a clue, says Rabbi Eliezer, that it means Ayin Tova. Says Rabbi Shua, yeah, but what was seen, or V'choshech? One thing has to be in relief and juxtaposed in connection to another. I can't define one without the other. There's no or without choshech, choshech without or. I can't get a handle on it. Chovetov, good friend, relationship, yachas. Says Rabbi Yossi, yeah, but the first or choshech were intermingled. I picture like the old barber poles. It was meshamish be'uvuvia, that only afterwards it was separated. Separation is boundaries. Boundaries is shochin tov. Rabbi Elazar ben Aruch says, how many words are there from Bereshis until the first appearance of the word tov? There are 32 words. Leiv, tov. How many words are there from Leiv? How many words are there from the tov? The Lag BaOmer is going to be 33. How many days are there from Lag BaOmer until Shavuos? There's 17 days, Tov days. It's a period of Leiv Tov. What does a period of Leiv Tov means? That this time of climbing the steps, climbing the mountain, climbing Sinai, we were ascending day by day through the Memches Dvarim Shatari Niknes Behem. There were more nitzotzah, sparks of sanctity that were nisgala and that were being then incorporated into my personality, into my character, not just as a spectator from without. I'm now absorbing them, I'm now bringing them into my person. This is the time that was especially suited. It was a time of simcha, it was a time of gilui. It was the Chol Hamoed that was connecting the relationship between Pesach. Why did we have Pesach? If we were going to slip down again, we had to, because we had to be pulled out of Mitzrayim. But also we visited that, and it's revisiting it, like the Maimed Har Sinai, all the neshamas were there, and learning with the Malach before the child is born. It's coming back. So now when I'm those Memches Dvarim, I'm coming back to where I once was, and I'm now bringing myself up to that point. Then I'll be eligible once I have interacted with others. Ki ish echad b'lei b'echad. Mi ka'amcha Yisrael goy echad ba'oretz, the pasuk says in Divrei Yomim, me. On the 50th day, it'll be ki ish echad b'lei b'echad. Why leiv echad? So I think the diuk is obvious, that the minds will always be different. That we see the world of we see things differently. But leiv echad, and the leiv of leiv means that we can empathize, not just sympathize, we can empathize with each other. I think it remains just a little bit of maybe a clarification. What's the difference between Leiv Tov and Ayin Tova? Perhaps the difference is that Ayin Tova seems to be a reactive. Leiv Tov maybe is proactive. It's more embracing. It's the opposite of Loisach mode is Ayin Tova. But to be proactive, to embrace the other, and to understand that he and I need him. Of course, I understand. I'm working from the premise that he needs my insights too. But then the two are interacting, and that's the Memches Dvarim Shatari Niknes Behem. The 49th day is the intermingling of all those components, and we should be zeicher, hopefully, that on the 50th day, then perhaps it's part of the strange times that we're living in, the difficult, challenging, the trying times. We always we talk about Hishtadlus is etzla yogato umotzoso. Eishes chayil miyimtzo, says the Roa, that it's going to always be a metzia. It's going to everybody's it's on everybody's tongue today. We're living in trying times. I would submit that all times are also always trying times. We only try. We're in the business of trying, not in the business of doing. The Rebbeinu Shalom does. That's the 50th day. That Yogata Umatzosa, it's a Metzia. And something which is somebody finds a Metzia, make the case, that's why Torah is compared to the male-female relationship, because that's why the Zohar usually takes the initiative, is proactive in finding the Nekeva, because who goes after the Metzia? The one who lost the Metzia. That was a Metzia that was lost from him. So the Torah is Metziadik. The Torah is Metziadik, that every Jew is recouping that which he once had. He revisited it now, the hayoras, the spiritual energy of it on Pesach, but he learned it one time with the Malach, and his neshama has a shaykhus to it as part of the core neshamas that were there at Maimed House Sinai. Okay, anybody want to any hayos, any questions?
Hi, Lior, you can start.
Rosh Hashiva, this is a question I have every year for Sphira. Like, how do we put ourselves in the correct mindset in terms of like getting ready for Kabbalah Satorah and also losing Rabbi Akiva's students? How do we put ourselves in the right mindset to appreciate those?
So first, let's come back to that, Leo, that the Dafka, because this is a time which was suited, which means that the Rebbeinu Shalom elevated us, then there's more midas hadin for not having exploited the potential at this particular time. Just like a tzaddik is the Rebbeinu Shalom is medagdik in tzaddikim kechuta saira. So of course we don't have any inkling of what the dalga was of the Talmidim Rabbi Akiva, but because this was the time that was suited. By the way, we should point out that just like the Maharal said, we start out this time with the Korban Oima is Seirim, that's the feed of animals. We start out on a lower madrega. This time is dedicated to see the Hashgocha Elokus in the Bria, the godliness in creation, right? That fits what the Maharal is teaching us, and that's the bridging between, that's the Cholamoid, bridging between Pesach and Shuas. The language of the Ramban is very stark in Parshas Bo, that not, it's to juxtapose, to be masmich, nes nigla and nes nista, that not just the extraordinary is Yad Hashem, the ordinary is Yad Hashem. We have to have heightened consciousness. This time is suited for it. It's a time that's dedicated to it. And even when the Achronim talk about this, even then we don't seem to be sensing it by the counting of the Sphira, by the learning, the chazering over now, the Mem we get a heightened awareness. Then that the time which is dedicated to see the Elokus in the Bria is the same time that's dedicated to see the Tzelem Elokim in another Jew. And that's why Heina Dvor, that the Talmidim of Rebbe Akiva, when even now, that is the time to see the Elokus in the Bria. And that's the time then that you're more culpable, Chas v'shalom, for not doing so. How do we do it? Learning with a sense that it's Arucha, it's Mida is 49, that it transcends, it goes beyond that which is normal. Outrageous claim, yeah, but we are an outrageous people. Otherwise, we couldn't be here today. As Rabbi Yaakov Emden says, the ness of our survival, right, is, as was pointed out by the non-Jews, right, goes beyond anything that has ever been cataloged anything else, anywhere else. Somebody else.
Rachamim Epstein.
Shalom, shalom, Rosh Hashiva. Can everybody hear me? I just want to first say thank you so much for this shiur. It's much a schus to be able to see you on Zoom, and I was very happy when I got the email and your other emails that you've sent out, so thank you. My question is, the Rosh Hashiva mentioned that during Shiras HaOmer, we are working within Teva, within the natural abilities of ourselves to grow, and then Hashem gives us the matana, hopefully at the end, B'ezras Hashem. And as well, Rosh Hashiva referenced the idea of Yagia. If you put in the Yagia, then B'ezras Hashem, you have the Mitzia as well. So my question is, in connection, one, to just in general, mitos, and two, Torah study, how would the Rosh Hashiva define the Yagia that is called for? Is Yagia, for example, in Torah study, a combination of a hasmada and tircha to learn, and those two terms encompass what is called Yagia, or are there other dimensions of Yagia as well?
I think that it's a point that we all struggle with, Rachamim, but I think that there's a qualitative Yagia and there's a quantitative Yagia. Torah is, we have to learn all of Torah, but there is yet a special part of Torah that is unique to each neshama. And then each neshama finds a certain sense of being babayit, of being at home in certain areas of Torah. So there's a minimum which allows us to be conversant with everybody else. We have to, we must be able to be in the Beis Medrash and to be on the minimal level. You remember the mashal that I used to use, that somebody comes to me after having been in Osamer for a period of time, and he says, okay, Rabbi, a beginner that started, I heard the lectures, I'm pretty persuaded that this stuff is true. Tell me the truth, level with me. How long am I in for? So usually what I've told them is, if the day you left Osamer, you were crossing the ocean in a ship, and you got hit by lightning, you got marooned on the desert island of the Gemara, right, a Vilna Shas. Schottenstein is great to use as reference, but a Vilna Shas, which means that you can make your way through the Daf Gemara. When you reach that point, you have then entered into the discussion that you can begin, you're part of the time machine. Then you're talking with the Rambam, with the Ramban, with Rashi, with Tosfos. You're going back to Ravina and Ravashi. You're Bayan Rova. You're going to Rabbi Akiva. Yes, you're going to be discussing with Rabbi Akiva. They're all there, as the Panovich Rav pointed out. They're all there in the Beis Medrash there. Why? Because the enterprise of learning is to reconstruct it from within. Now, some of us will draw something that connects our neshama to a certain kind of approach. It could be certain mesechtas, but it could be certain certain method of learning, certain style of learning. Rabbi Kiva is told, Agoda is not your specialty. Of course he knew Agoda, but it wasn't that which opened up his neshama to everything else. So the answer to your question is that it's each one of us explores. There's a minimum that we have to be conversant with being able to open up a daf Gemara and to make it work. If we got marooned on our desert island, and from there forward, we find that which speaks to our neshama most. Okay, something else? Somebody else? Okay, so I'll just wish everybody that the Benishams are helping, that during these trying times, remember, all times are only trying times. Yogata and Matzosa, we're in the business of ishtadlis, of trying. So I never thought that I would be missing the lines at the airports, longing for them, right? So I'm looking forward to accumulating some more frequent trial miles. Okay, chazak ve'amatz, everybody, and we should have a Kabbalah Satira that transcends the boundaries and the limitations of space, and enter into. It's not accidental. The Meir Simcha says that the Moshe Rabbeinu is Meisef Yom Echad Midaitai for Shavuos, right? It's a day that's in flux, that it's totally on Pesach, the fixing of Pesach. Why? Because there had to immediately be, at the inception of the moment of receiving the Torah, the coupling of Torah Shebeksav and Torah Shebal Peh. The remez is in the Mazel Tuomim, that there had to be, Moshe Rabbeinu had to be Meisef Echad Midaitai. So each one of us has our Mokum Lisgadabai, but we have to yet be Ki Ish Echad B'Leiv Echad. And Leiv Echad means that we have to be sufficiently sympathetic and conversant with each other to appreciate what the other has to offer me, and that I have something to offer the other. Okay, Chazak v'amatz, Chevra, Yeshua, Surah, Fuas, V'kol Klal Yisrael.